Thank you, Jenny, for the introduction. Congratulations, ISACA Sofia, for the third time. It's becoming a tradition now already, yeah. So my name is Pavel Kaminsky. I live in Sofia. I'm a QSA, so I have to travel a lot. And today, I'd like to talk about PCI DSS and building a culture of security with PCI DSS or under PCI DSS. First of all, I'd like to ask you, how many of you knows what PCI DSS is? Please raise your hand. Okay, good. We have more hands each time. That's great. How many of you already passed attestation or passed an PCI DSS assessment? Okay, good. My clicker is here. So, let's start. I'd like to do it in a bit introduction way, so probably we have enough time. And let's communicate, let's ask questions. It's a very interesting topic, and I believe that I can tell you a lot about that. What is the best security? What to do in order to get protected? What to do in order to stay protected? This is not an easy question. And for the last decade, we are talking about so-called layered defense concept or defense in depth. Yeah, the idea is easy here when one control is supplemented by another, protecting from the same risk in order to provide you more chances to survive attacks. PCI DSS is all about defense in depth. Even in the assessment, an assessor has to check your documented policies because almost every control, your control should be documented formally. There is also interviews with your personnel who is involved in this process. There is also a so-called operating effectiveness testing, as we have to see how these processes were working in the past. In its full scope, PCI DSS has around 360 controls. As you can see on the slide, it covers almost everything. It covers your systems, your network, your transmission channels, your storage, your development process, your logging, detecting, monitoring, and of course the cornerstone of any information security, your information security governance. And what to do more? What one can do more? How to evolve your information security? And the answer is business as usual. More and more we talk about integrating information security into your business in usual operations. In order to be sure that you are protected, you have to embed your information security into your business. The importance is obvious, yeah? You can install, purchase all security systems in the world and still fail because nobody updates them, nobody see your logs, and so on. Do we have information security managers here? Who is responsible for information security in your organizations? Please raise your hand. Okay. Around 10 people, that's great. So I have a question to you. What do you do daily? What is your daily task? Anyone? Sorry? Firewall logs. Okay, great. You review firewall logs daily. It's great. Anything else?
All system locks,
not only firewalls, all system locks. You are absolutely right. PCI DSS wants you to check your logs daily. Your security events, log of your all system components, log of your CDE, which is a cardholder data environment, systems that transfer, store, or process cardholder data, and so on. What do you do weekly? Just interested. Probably we can get some experience that we don't know. Okay, it's an easy question. PCI DSS wants your file integrity monitoring to do a file comparison weekly. Probably you do it more often, yeah? So I think that new solutions do it in real time, something like that. But at least weekly, you have to do it. Quarterly. It's a very easy question to anyone who already knows what PCI DSS is implemented it doing the assessment, because there are some things that you have to do quarterly. Vado knows for sure. Of course, these are vulnerability scanning. External via ASV, internal. You have to do also if you store the cardholder data, so you have to follow the deleting procedures to see if you still need to store it. You have to perform reviews and confirm that your personnel is following security policies quarterly if you are a service provider. And semi-annually, every 6 months, it's also, everyone knows who read PCI DSS standard, it's somewhere in the beginning, every 6 months, you have to review your firewall rules. Yeah, you have to review your firewall rules, and again, if you're a service provider, you have to do a pen testing on segmentation controls if you are using segmentation for scope reduction. Annually, it's easy for all security managers, I think, so you have to review your documents, you have to do a training, you have to do awareness sessions, you have to test your disaster recovery plan, you have to approve all your policies, review and approve them. Once again, you have to perform risk assessment, of course. And again, pen testing. Annually, external, internal, and segmentation. There are some things that you have to do periodically, and your risk assessment should tell you how often you have to do them. For example, you have to review logs of all other system components, not the critical ones that you have to review daily. You have to inspect the devices, your POS devices, if you have them. And you have to check if the systems not commonly considered to be vulnerable to viruses are still in the same stage. So PCI DSS gets bothered about antivirus on your systems, but we all know that there are systems that usually are not affected, yeah? And you can implement a process to confirm that it's still in that stage and you still don't require antivirus for that systems. You have to do it periodically, probably once in 3 months or in 6 months or annually. It's up to you. There are many requirements that you have to follow after change or after significant change. This is also a matter of your risk assessment. What are your changes and what are your significant change? For example, upon any change, it's easy. Yeah? You change something, you have to follow some things. For example, if you change your network, you have to approve the changes, you have to test the changes, and you have to update your network diagrams, your network documentation. But you don't have to do a pen testing again. But if you do a significant change, you have to do a pen testing, vulnerability scanning, and some other procedures. Let's recap. In order to integrate your security or PCI DSS in this case into your business as usual, you have to monitor your security controls. It's very important thing. Yeah, you have to know that your firewalls, your intrusion detection, your file integrity monitoring, your antivirus, your access control systems still work. Second, you have to ensure that any failure in these security controls are detected and you have responded to them appropriately. You have to make sure that your security controls are restored, that you identify the cause of the failure. You have to implement mitigation and prevent reoccurring of these failures. And probably you have to enhance some controls for some time in order to make sure that all will be good. Of course, you have to, at third, you have to control your environment. This is a very often we see assessing the organizations when after some changes, new controls PCI DSS controls are not being implemented on new systems or something like that. So you have to control your environment, you have to respond to changes in your environment. You have to make sure that addition of new systems or change in your environment keeps it secure. And you have to update PCI DSS scope according to a new environment, because sometimes after any changes the scope could become bigger. Sorry. And periodic reviews. You have to make sure that PCI DSS requirements continue to be in place and personnel are following them. You have to be sure that all locations and facilities are covered into your reviews. And of course, like for any assessors, for any auditors, think about keeping the evidence, yeah? Because when auditors come to your premise, what they are looking for are the evidences how this was done. It's probably not important for you, but it's important to properly document that you are doing the things right. And of course, separation of duties, a very important control that helps you to prevent one checkpoint to fail. So make sure or always try, depending on the size of your organization, that your operations and security personnel are separated, that people implementing some changes and approving some changes are different, that developers don't have access to your production and are not able to change your code or something like that without following your secure development lifecycle. Many organizations have problems, issues with the controls. But the idea in business as usual is to provide you a mechanism to find when your controls start failing before too many of them failed, resulting in a breach. If you open any breach report, you will see that that's actually what happened. Again, we have a layered defense, and usually several of the controls have to be failed in order to result in a breach. So this is a mechanism that provides you to catch this in the beginning. And you know there are a lot of security devices, security solutions that you can find on the market. Today, almost all of them are starting to be universal approach to security, protecting from everything or something like that. Be sure that hackers are expecting all these devices in your networks. What they don't expect is to find them updated. What they don't expect is to get caught by your personnel reviewing the logs and to see your firewalls in place. Thank you. If you have any questions, now you can ask anything, probably not about the topic. Sometimes people ask how to prevent credit card fraud, or if someone taking my money from my card, what can I do? Okay.
I've heard of a case where a vendor goes to a bank and says, I can secure your cards via using latest technology, whatever. It's going to cost you 20 cents a card.
Okay.
And the person responsible from the bank says, okay, let me see. He makes some calculations and says, in order for the our fraud costs us 5 cents a card. Why should we use it? There's no business value to it.
It's a good point, actually, and it's a correct point, depending on how you calculated it. So how they calculated it. When we talk about risk assessment, you know, there is a quantitative type of risk assessment where you can count, analyze loss expectancy, and if you see that this risk costs you less than implementing the security controls, you don't need to do it. Yeah. So you are absolutely right here. A PCI DSS is not a law, so you are not obliged to do it. The issue here is that I'm not sure that the calculation is right and correct, and usually the numbers are unpredictable here, because if a breach happens, what happens if a breach happens? Yeah, so banks, first you have to report about the breach to Visa, MasterCard, and other brands you are working with. After that, they will provide you instructions what to do, only after that. Usually the instructions are: hire a PFI, payment forensic investigator. This is a different company, not a QSA, yeah, PFI. Again, PCI, PFI, they have their own compliance. They have to come to your bank, to your premise, and investigate what happened. You have to pay for that. Believe me, it costs more than PCI DSS assessment. Second, you have to pay fines to Visa, MasterCard, to payment brands. Third, probably if you are acquire and get connected to them directly, they will probably, or even if you are a client of an acquire, they probably will raise their fees for you. Again, for the security. Fourth, you can have legal cases from other banks, because other banks, depending on the volume of the breach cards, other banks have to reissue the cards. Probably, for example, in my history, I had 2 or 3 times when my bank called me and told me that, come to us, please get your new card. Yeah. It's free for you. You don't have to pay anything. So it's usually the case like that. There was a breach in that database. There was my card. The bank has to reissue the card, and after that, the bank asks this money from Visa, MasterCard, or from payment brands, and payment brands ask them from your bank, from your acquire bank. Yeah. So there are like a waterfall of issues that could happen. And I don't believe that it's very easy to calculate. Even if you will Google for cases like what is the Visa penalty for breach, you will not find numbers. You will find that something starting from $50,000 or something like that. But how much for a record or for what? So it's not very easy, but PCI DSS is not a law. If you calculate it, that you are okay and you can accept this risk is cheaper for you, you are okay. So it's how this world works, yeah? Absolutely okay.
I have one more question, actually.
Yeah.
Technical one, the CSV code. What does PCI DSS say about storing it during the transaction?
CVC like a SAT, yeah. You are not allowed to store it after the authorization. If you are not an issuer, yeah, who should store it. If you don't support issuing services, you are not allowed to store it after authorization. This is a tricky thing because...
What can be the authorization? 1 second, 1 minute?
Yeah, we have customers like airplanes which accept payment card data and stores it until the airplane lands. So it could be 10 hours, yeah? Formally, it's after authorization. When the authorization is done, you are okay. But again, you have to have a business case for all things. In order to store anything from the cardholder data, you have to have a business case. Business need, yeah. Thank you too for great questions. Thank you very much for your attention and enjoy the conference.